Hey everybody, I'm Jim, the Money Man. Now this is part two in the video about reading large boards in Make or Integromat from Monday. And specifically, we're talking about boards that are more than 3,000 items or so. Okay, so if you haven't seen part one, it's worthwhile going back to see that because we talk about the basic issues at hand and how to deal with them directly. This one is going to be more specific about a creative solution that will make it more flexible and you can use it in different scenarios going forward. And so let's get started. All right, so here's version 2. And this is more complicated. It does require more operations. But if you are going to potentially make changes along the way, specifically with what you're reading and outputting on your Monday board, and potentially with the data structure, you basically have only two places to make changes. Additionally, if you're going to change inside here, whether you're going to show the parent or the sub items, that can have a significant difference as well. So let's just walk through what this does. This is the meat. You have a repeater that is going to run a given number of times. We're going to get the variables that we're going to end up creating here, actually. And then we're going to read the board, we're going to put it into an array, and then we basically merge that piece into whatever we had before, and we loop through this as many times as we need. That's the main piece. This is the data structure. This is just to keep the warnings from occurring. So here is where it is getting the final result of this loop. And from here, you might use that array directly, or you also could use an iterator to go through all of the items. And what I added here is also not, is just a count. I just wanted to be able to easily see how many did I actually get. So let's start through this. The router you wouldn't necessarily need. This set multiple variables you could put directly into here, but we'll go through that. So let's start here. So I defined a value of the total maximum number of items that I want to read. And this is not an exact number. So I'm reading 3,000 items for each query, and that's the second value that I have defined here. So I'm not going to specifically cut it off. I could, if I wanted to, cut the array at this maximum, but I don't think it's necessary for me. So just want to make sure that you understand that this is basically going to execute the loop twice. So if there were 6,000 or more items, it would actually read 6,000 instead of 5,000. This is just to control the loop. So this router is just to separate this looping step from this step. But basically we want a different route. And so this is where you would use this final array. The repeater starts with an initial value of 1, and I want the ceiling. So when I divide this, so in this case, I'm going to divide 5,000 by 3,000. And so I'm going to get 1 point something. And so this is going to now change this to 2. And so we're going to execute this loop twice. Now, if I now wanted to be able to read 8,000 items, all I have to do to change this scenario is change my max items to 8 or 10 or something bigger. And I've limited the number of reads that actually have to occur later on, and I'll show you that. So here we get last count. So that's how many were read the last time. And we read the result array, which is going to be set here. So these are empty basically the first time through. All right. And I'm going to skip this filter, but that's going to be important. So I'm reading, the limit is going to be the items per query that I have set. And this could be a constant, of course, but I wanted to be able to adjust it. And then the start page, we're going to be on the first time through, I is going to be equal to 1. So this -1 is 0 times whatever is going to be 0. And then we're adding 1. So the first time through, it's going to be page 1. Now, the second time through, this value here is going to be 1 times the items per query divided by 1,000. So basically, how many did we read? How many pages did we read each time through? So because we're not showing parent or sub-item IDs, as is defined here via Integromat, we're selecting pages of 1,000 items. So the number of pages we read the first time was this items per query was 3,000 divided by 1,000. So we read 3 pages. So we want this to result in page the second time through as page 4. So that would be 1 times 3 is 3 plus 1 is 4. And so that gives us the correct amount. Okay, so here's the values that I'm outputting. And then we're doing the same thing here with our data structure. I'm not even going to go into that. And then we have our results. So what we're doing on the last count is I just want to know how many did the last one count. And so I'm just going to take the length of that array as it's returned. And then the second part here is I'm merging whatever we have already accumulated with the read that we got last time. So that's what this structure is here. So we're just merging those two arrays. Now the first time through, this is empty, so it's just going to show that. But every subsequent loop is going to add those arrays together. Okay, so this goes through, it adds it to that, comes back here, reads that, which is this value, reads that result, and then it's going to continue to add more. Now, just to shorten the cycles, if I read, um, let's just walk through it. All right. So if the last count is equal to the items per query, so let's say we have our items per query set at 3,000, and the last read we did, I got 3,000 records. And now it could be that there's no more records to read and no more items to read, but I don't know that for sure. But most of the time, there's going to be still, if I reached 3,000, there's more still to read. So if that is the case, then I want to continue. Also, I want to continue the very first time through, regardless of this. So that's what this does. So we'll cancel that. And that's basically it. So the adjustments that you can make, you can adjust max items, you can adjust your items per query. Now, I wouldn't go this high because they're part of the limitation within Integromat. Actually, to help us, is it tries to not time out. So um, when in the very beginning of this, I showed you that I was reading a board that had over 4,000 items on it, but it returned 3,200. And that number is actually variable dependent on how slow the Monday API is returning the data. Anyway, I know that's a little bit complicated, but just trust me, this might be better to be a little bit lower. So what I would probably do is change that to a 2,000, maybe even 1,000. So, okay. So let's run this and see if it works. So we should get 2 reads here. And I'm going to fast forward this. Okay, so we should have gotten our 45 and was it 16? 4516? Yeah. So there we go. So this works. The It is more complicated. It is more operations, but the significant advantage is to be able to adjust the parameters. So I only have two places. If anytime I change this, I change that here, or if I change the output here. So I only have two places or two and a half to change those parameters. And I don't have, as we had in version one, potentially, two or three or four or five or more different places where I need to edit all that. And if I find that this is dropping records because of the systems being slow, I can come back in here and instead of doing 3,000 per query, I can change that and make it just 1,000 per query, like so. And I don't need to change anything else. So significant advantage if you need to be able to make adjustments like that. And I'm all about making things very efficient. And from an operations standpoint in Make and Integromat. Um, but you have to weigh the difference between being able to maintain stuff and make it easy to edit and getting the optimal number of operations. So this is another way to do it. One last thing. If you come in here, I think I mentioned this before, but right here, show parent ID or show subitem ID, if I'm going to include that as is described here, the page size will be different. And so what I want to do is instead of dividing this by 1,000, I actually want to divide it by 100. So I would change that to this if I did that, for example. Okay. And uh, for those of you who are interested in this and you just want to use it, we're done. But for those who might want a little more or look at the detail, I'm going to show you something. And I haven't explained how to use the Integromat tools, which I will in an upcoming video. All right, so I had to make a slight adjustment, and I'm not going to go into all the details of this tool, but I want to show you something that will help you understand a little bit better what is going on behind the scenes. So I want to look at this module and I'm going to take a look at exactly what happened when it executed. So I'm going to come down here. Here is this executed twice. This module executed twice. Here's operation one. And now what happened behind the scenes is it actually did three things. So if we open that up, I can take a look now at the actual execution that occurred with regard to the Monday API. So it didn't just call the API once, it called it three times. So the first one here is this is the string that it's executing, right? And then if we look at the second one, we can open that up and we see this other one. So notice that this is page 2 and this is page 1. So uh, even though we didn't say, we just said we wanted to start with page 1. So behind the scenes, it started with page 1, but then it did also page 2 and page 3. And that's where up in here in the detail, it's showing, it says, here's the page size. So if we were to re-execute this, it might as well do it. So, and I'm just going to change this to 10. No, we want 200. 200. And we're going to say show parent, even there is none. Items per query, we're going to set to, let's just do this. I'm going to delete this. So it's not going to do that. So now, though, I'm saying that I want to read 200 items, and I am not specifying a page. Now it's going to execute this module once, but let's get out of, we have to deselect and reselect when we're in here to do this. So we got one operation and we got two requests. So we look at the first one, it's going to show page one, a limit of 100. Okay. We actually requested 200, right? And then the second string here, or the second API request, is going to show another 100 and page two. So uh, they have enhanced, Integromat Make has enhanced the intelligence of this, and it's been this way for a while. But what they've added, which we can't see here, is they're monitoring the timing of the operations, and so that's why sometimes it comes back. We say, "Give me 5,000 records," and it only gives us 3,200. That's because we are reaching the time limit on these activations or these operations. So anyway, a little more than you probably wanted. And I will again get into this tool later, but there you go. All right, that's it. We have some more videos coming out soon, so stay tuned. I hope that was very helpful. We'll see you later. Till next time, I'm Jim, the Money Man.